Immanuel Kant was an 18th century German philosopher most notable for... Yes, that's right, Kant. That's how you pronounce it. Not Kant, not Kant, not Jones, but Kant. It's a German name, and I'm quite happy to sit here in silence until you're mature enough to get over it. Okay, good. So Immanuel Kant was an 18th century German philosopher most notable for his work on ethics. Ethics is the philosophical study of moral action. It's not just about judging people per se, but rather looking at right and wrong as concepts in themselves and how we might figure out the best way for people to behave. There are two general schools of thought on this. Consequentialism divides right from wrong entirely based on the consequences of an action, or in other words, the end justifies the means. Deontology, on the other hand, is the position that the consequences don't really matter because moral judgment is contained in the act alone. Kant was a deontologist, and frustrated with the sort of Mickey Mouse wishy-washy subjectivity of moral theory of the day, he proposed an absolute, stone-cold, objective, unbreakable moral law which he called the categorical imperative. The categorical imperative is based upon Kant's idea that morality is derived from rationality and all moral judgments are rationally supported. So just as rational thought leads us to an objective reality, so too is there an objective morality we can locate through the same process. The categorical imperative is an absolute non-negotiable universal moral law that holds up regardless of context and circumstance. Kant was absolutely unwavering on this point. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong, full stop. To further analyse Kant's ethical framework, we can break the categorical imperative down into three maxims. The first maxim is that all your actions must have universality. In other words, you should only do something if you think it would be okay if everybody did it all the time. For example, you might be innocently flirting with your 18-year-old co-worker behind your wife's back, but to work out whether this is okay, you have to first imagine a world in which literally every single human being around the entire globe was flirting constantly with attractive teenagers as soon as his or her partner's back was turned. If this doesn't seem like a desirable world to live in, then it's not okay to do it, not even once. The second maxim is that every human being must be treated as an end rather than a means to an end. What this basically means is that you're never allowed to manipulate anyone no matter what. This stands in stark opposition to consequentialist theories that take into account the greater good. Kant thought that the greater good was irrelevant. Each person is his own rational agent and no one person may be manipulated to achieve the goals of another. That means that you can never lie. Ever, to anybody, under any circumstances, for any reason. The third maxim is that you should always behave as though you are the absolute moral authority of the entire universe. It should be noted that some people already think this, but it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Kant. A major criticism of Kant's second maxim is that if somebody came to your door with an axe and asked you to kindly tell him the location of your children so that he can hack them into tiny pieces, you would be morally obligated to tell him the truth. Kant responded quite controversially, yes. You would, but he didn't see anything wrong with that. Because the murderer is his own moral agent, you're not responsible for his choices, you're only responsible for your own. That said, there's also nothing morally wrong with you locking the door and calling the police. Immanuel Kant is one of the most influential philosophers of all time, not only in ethics, but in epistemology and political theory. However, I only have 3 minutes to talk about him, and quite frankly, anyone who logs onto the internet to listen to me talk about Kant for 3 minutes has already realised this is nothing like what they'd expected.